You're listening to Radio Free Rhinecliff.
Welcome to Studio Property, the cinema podcast for people like you. I'm Doug Wartell.
I'm Devin Irby, and this week we're discussing The Taking of Pelham 123, circa 1974, as directed by one Mr. Joesph Sargeant, produced by Gabriel Ketska and Edgar J. Sherrick. I like that name.
Yeah.
And we always have to talk about the cinematographer. So cinematography by Owen Roidsman.
Oh, yeah, we're going to get into him a lot.
We need to get into that. And then starring one Walter Matthau.
The human mastiff.
Yes, the human mastiff. I also love that this is the first Walter Matthau movie that we're doing, is this gem.
Yes.
And it also has Robert Shaw, Martin Balsam, Hector Elizondo, and Earl Hindman as our color crew.
Now, before we get into even the color crew, shout out to Quentin Tarantino, who sampled that like Vanilla Ice. I have to mention that we were in last week's Daily Catch, which is our local paper here. Yeah, so that's
crazy.
Yeah.
We were in the newspaper.
I know, and it wasn't even for threatening Blockbuster Bob on 78.1 Poughkeepsie's Community Radio, or as we call it here on our station, the Small P. So, not even about that.
That's
right.
Not even about that?
No.
Actually about us?
Yeah, it was like an announcement, like we're here in the neighborhood. So, and it wasn't,
Wow.
You know what it also did? You know what they didn't report, Devin? That you may or may not have mystically killed David Lynch last week.
Oh.
You know.
I know. I've been feeling really bad about that.
Yeah.
I know. I've been feeling really bad about that all week. Not gonna lie.
I mean, you had no way of knowing when you said it.
No, it's true.
Except you maybe did it on purpose and took him away from us. So
it's possible. I mean, I do have some weird magical aura. I do have mystic powers. So I mean, maybe
you love the occult. You know,
I do love the occult. You know, I really do.
You kill cats and stuff sometimes. But
well,
let's get into this copy that I've got to read before the theme song.
All right.
Right? So, The Taking of Pelham 123 is about a group of armed men who steal a New York City subway train in hopes of a cash ransom of $1 million. Roger Ebert praised the film for its unforced realism, as everyone from the mayor on down is New York accurately annoyed upon being forced to stop what they're doing and give a shit about a train car full of hostages. Walter Matthau gives a career performance as a transit officer who frantically attempts to negotiate with terrorists in between his yesteryear curiosities like, are Asians dum-dums? Are lady cops competent? And might that British man robbing my train in fact, quote, be a fruitcake, unquote. Join us now as we discuss the original Taking of Pelham 123. Devin, kick the theme song.
Put that prop gun down. Put back the canisters you stole. The devil laughed out loud when you signed away your rotten soul. That's studio property, your studio property. Hey! Shut your mouth or you'll never work in Hollywood again.
So this week we have a guest host, and it's a friend of yours, Doug. I'm very excited. So if you'd like to introduce him to our audience.
Probably my oldest friend. Right? His name is Mike Percoco. Decades long.
Centuries? How long have we? Millennials? How long has it been? Millenniums?
If you're listening on the podcast version of this show, I actually told the story that Mike is in. And it's the story of, but it's also Susan's also in the story too. Yeah.
Yep.
Mike had a magical shoplifting coat too, didn't you, Mike?
Oh,
yes,
did
I did.
you?
I did. It was early Columbo style, and it was kind of all the way down to my ankle. It served its purpose. So, you could, if you bent over, you still had access. You didn't have to come back up again to slide it in your pocket. You could stay bent down and put it in the pocket that I made there. Yeah, it was very man from uncle spy kind of stuff. Apparel. Nice. It was really good.
You can get a pint of ice cream to just disappear like it was going to Narnia.
It was just right there. Exactly. Yep. I contacted Ben and Jerry to see if they'd make a brand called Disappear, by your ankle, brand. And it just didn't work, but we tried. But thank you for having me, by the way.
Oh, of course.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank
But
you.
yes, he was
Appreciate
there
it.
when Susan outdid us both with the 2-liter bottle of soda under the army jacket routine. So, but Mike actually introduced me to this film decades ago.
Yeah, I had originally seen it edited. They used to show in Brooklyn in the early 80s on Channel 5. And those of you from New York will know what I'm talking about because it's no longer called Channel 5, WNEW. I think it's W whatever they call it now. That's the call letters, W whatever they call it now.
Right.
But they used to show the movie. They used to show something called the Big Apple movie every Sunday night. And they showed it. And I was blown away always. And I've always been a trained nerd. So it kind of fell into my chi, so to speak, with that. And when video discs were available, I was too poor to have a VCR at the time. I think they were like $9,000 at the time in 1983. How much was a VCR then? Right? At least. And but I had a video disc player, those little video discs that would come in and out. There was CED, Select Division, and I was able to find a copy of the movie unedited. And ever since then, never stopped watching it. It was an unbelievable movie. You know, it's not like a John Ford kind of thing where it's like this, grand sweeping, amazing Americana film, but it's a great popcorn movie.
I agree with
That's a good description. Yeah, that's a good description.
Joesph Sargeant is the director of this.
Yeah, Joesph Sargeant.
He comes from television. What else did he do, Mike?
He did a few strange things. He directed a film with the soap opera star Eric Braeden, whose son has the Den of Thieves 2 right now in the theater. Because that's his son, Christian Gudegast. His real name, of course, is Hans Gudegast, Eric Braeden.
Yeah.
And he, his only starring role ever before Titanic, way before Titanic, he was in a film called Colossus, the Forbin Project, in 1970 about a kind of science fiction yarn.
If my mom's listening, I'm sorry to interrupt you. If my mom's listening, yes, we are talking about Victor Newman. We are definitely talking
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Yes, we are. We are, absolutely. We are indeed.
Jacques Abbott, get out of my office. You are a porcine human being. You make me sick. Sorry, we'll just do all this all day. I'm sorry.
all day. So the movie was like a Dollar Tree version of Logan's Run, which is pretty much Logan's Run, pretty much anyway. But, strangely, I had read where Ron Howard had wanted to remake this movie a few years ago, never got off the ground. Anyway, so he was a fan of it, is my point. But Joesph Sargeant directed this. And then Joesph Sargeant went on to direct the Kojak pilot for Telly Savalas's Who Loves Your Baby. It was called Marcus Nelson Murders, and he won an Emmy for the best director. So he already had a little bit of clout.
After this, goes on to direct Jaws: The Revenge.
About 13 years later, yes.
Yes. And if you didn't see it, it was because it was personal. It was none of your business.
And it had Michael Caine, who has pretty much been in every movie ever made except for Pelham. Once they did direct-to-video, it was pretty much as a wing named after Michael Caine because he's been in pretty much every movie ever made that went to video, everyone. And Jaws: The Revenge notwithstanding, absolutely.
Well, I saw a clip of Joesph Sargeant talking about making Jaws: The Revenge, and he was really funny, but also really honest in a way that, like, I didn't see very many directors because like a big director, like once you've done something as epic as like Pelham, right? You'd probably say like, we had an idea and, I just wanted the money or something. You know what I mean? Like Michael Caine sort of rewrites history that way when this subject comes up. But he's very honest. He's like, nah, you know what? We thought it was a great idea. He's like, we were like, we needed a new way to kill the shark. And we were like, yeah, man, he's out for revenge.
It kind of smacks of that thing where like Rocky V was a really, really bad movie. So he wanted to make the 6th movie, and Jaws 3D is one of the worst movies ever made with Dennis Quaid and company. So they probably were like, well, let's give it one more shot here. And like you say,
that's a good correlation.
Joesph Sargeant, of terrible films, but definitely, yes,
yes, they're right on the same. No, they are. It's that same sort of back to back. It's like, well,
to
that's
just kind of cover the.
but this crap has corn in it. Like I
Right.
feel that one, right? You know,
There's corn in it. Oh my God.
But he's like, but it's so great because he's like, he even like debunks a lot of the stuff that Michael Caine will say about it. He's like, yeah, man, Michael Caine loved the script too. When he's talking about Joesph Sargeant, he's like, he's like, oh no, we all thought it was fantastic. We were like, yeah. Then he goes, and because I was also the producer, I was like, yeah, we're going to go ahead and shoot in the Bahamas. I know people told me, you know, great whites don't go to the Bahamas. Ours does because it wanted revenge. And at this point, I'm on like 2 gummies, and I'm like, I'm like, this is the best.
I'm sure we would all agree that movie is Michael Caine's Geely. No question. That's definitely Michael Caine's Geely.
I feel like that
Absolutely.
movie has two huge stars in it. Mario Van Peebles and Mario Van Peebles' fake patois. It is like the most over the top. Where he's like, hey man, blood clot, man. That's a big shark.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And of course, Mrs. Brody is in it as well.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
so when you have the only one left is Mrs. Brody because these directors make sure to kill her entire family little by little each movie.
Yep.
Exactly. Because I think the son gets eaten in this one, or the
The
little
top
son
one.
gets
Right.
eaten. Right, the one who sings, you know, "Who Are You, the Muffin Man" in the first movie, right? Or what, you know, the little kid, exactly. He's a grown man now a little later, and then he's.
I have to be the killjoy here and say, let's move on.
I was going to say, right. Which Joesph Sargeant movie are we talking about? Exactly.
Right. There was a time when Joesph Sargeant got a gig where he was surrounded by incredible people, amazing cast, the most incredible DP anyone could have asked for in Owen Roisman.
Absolutely.
He did The Heartbreak Kid.
Yep.
He shot The Exorcist. He shot A Man Called Horse. He shot Network. He shot 3 Days of the Condor.
French Connection.
Yep. Taps, Electric Horseman, and Tootsie. And to your, like Mike mentioned, The French Connection.
And never won a competitive Academy Award, unbelievably. He got an honorary one before he died, a couple years before he died, but never won, unbelievably, never won.
Disgusting.
Ever.
Add him to the list that angers us.
Devin, what was your experience watching this movie?
It was a real roller coaster for me. So I love the cinematography because I really was impressed by just the dynamic of the back and forth where you're basically in 2 rooms kind of the whole time, right? So you're basically in the subway car, and then you're in the control room, as it were. But then you get intercut with that dumb car chase. Well, not a car chase, but like the car, like the speeding cars, because the cops are trying to get there. And then of course shenanigans ensue. So I thought that was all really interesting. And of course I'll sit through anything with Walter Matthau. And it was so funny to me because it just seemed like Walter Matthau was being Walter Matthau, but in a serious film. And I was like, all right, I'm in it. He was being all, like you said, and he was like casually being racist to the Japanese train guys.
Yeah.
I was like, what is all this about?
It's wonderful how they call him out, though. It's like they've been playing him all along. And that scene, right? Most exciting.
Right?
Most exciting. Most exciting.
Yes,
Most exciting.
It was amazing. Yeah, that was fantastic.
Yeah, classic. He's playing like a ragtag Oscar Madison way too. Like it's almost like the way Jack Nicholson does The Shining, and then every role he does after that is kind of like Torrance. It's almost like when he did Oscar Madison, everything he did after that, because the Bad News Bears even has Shades of Garber, and then House Calls, and then on we go.
That's a good
Grumpy
call.
Old Men, even, you know.
That's so
I'm
funny.
sorry, please continue.
That's okay. So then there was that dynamic, and then the other 2 components that kind of hit me were the real crotchety train guy. Wow, that was a lot happening with that character where he was like, where he's like, I can't keep my trains running on time. And I was like, geez Louise, dude, people have been taken hostage. Calm down.
They are so annoyed. Every New Yorker, from, like I said, from the mayor on down, are just annoyed. They're like,
everything is cynical.
Yes.
what's interesting is how the screenplay, right? So Peter Stone, who did that screenplay, it's almost like he's equating to say, if you're a New Yorker, if you're a quintessential New Yorker, then you're automatically like a nice racist, blanket racist style. You're cynical always. Everything is about sarcasm and dry, quick one-liners and the original pre 9/11 New York had a little bit of, I hate to say, a little truth to it. Not condoning anything about that, but it sort of did have that 70s New York was a very downtrodden kind of an era time, and thus. But it's interesting how it kind of uncomfortably walks that tightrope with the comedy and trying to be an action movie and. It usually works.
At the very end, right, where Matthau gets the rap sheets on all of them, right? Mm-hmm. And he's like, yeah, and this guy's from like San Francisco, and he's like, yeah, I can read, Rico, thanks.
yeah. Everything is always right, and it's almost like, and then what's even more amazing is how you have Matthau doing it. So Matthau, whose career is already being like a cynical New Yorker in everything he does, now he's like, I get to be a character on top of being my normal who I am. Mm-hmm. It's like Matthau playing Matthau kind of thing going on there.
Right.
Absolutely.
It's like the Russian doll of Matthau's.
Right, it was. It was like a ridiculous Russian doll situation of Walter Matthau.
And then it's like the littlest Matthau, exactly.
So this is like what I was taking in my first time watching it. And then, of course, that last component is the fact that it is essentially also making an attempt at being a serious heist film, right? So everything about the heist itself was really serious and intense. And I was like, I was very whiplashy because I was like that. I was like, I loved everything about like the color crew. I loved their like the way, the mustaches and the hat, the whole 9 yards, the way they did their outfits and the whole thing, and how everything was so perfectly planned out and how serious everybody who's obviously a hostage is taking it and all of that stuff. And then, just, jumping back and forth. And I just felt like I was getting whiplash between Walter Matthau and the grumpy, like, train crew and then the seriousness on the car itself the whole time. Right. Yeah. So it was a real ride.
Yeah. Shaw is the only one who really doesn't play it for laughs at all, in a way. Like everybody else has something going on. Even Tony Roberts, he's got a little scene, and he's got all his little wisecracks to the mayor and blah blah blah, and the mayor with his cold, and Martin Balsam with his cold, and everybody's got a
even
cold.
His wife's got a little dig at him.
Yeah, everybody. Doris Roberts, right? Because she used to give Peter Boyle all the time on Everybody Loves Raymond all the time. The same kind of characters she went on to play, right? And there's that kind of thing, like the fact that it's like people have bad colds, everybody's feeling crappy, everybody's feeling cynical, nobody even believes, right? Originally when he pulls a submachine come out, which we'll probably see later in that clip, they laugh, like all the hostages are laughing. No one takes anything seriously until, like you say, you have to take it seriously. And it's interesting that you make that point, how it kind of goes that fine line between the two. Absolutely. You
know what? If we can rewind a second, I've just now thought of the perfect assessment, which is going back to Michael Caine. This movie is Robert Shaw is Michael Caine in The Muppet Christmas Carol, where he's the only one playing it, right? He's playing it completely 100% straight the entire time, and everybody else is getting into shenanigans around him. But he is just the whole time. Okay. That's what this is.
Yeah. I've never thought I'd say this, but I love you both, and I hate you both so much. Oh my God.
It's interesting how then a year later in Jaws, how Shaw then plays it so whimsical. Because it's true. It's almost like he's letting off steam from being it so kind of buttoned down and closed. He pulls off Ryder perfectly doing it that way. In the book was a lot different too, with a lot of things. The book wasn't cynical at all. There wasn't any of that cynical humor. In fact, the book more focuses on how they managed to steal the train. And the movie, of course, kind of puts a little fiction with that dead man's feature, and there's a little bit of fiction going on for creative license, and it makes a great ending. near answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but the color coding of the gang came from the screenplay and not the book, right?
And it's reflected in their hats, which I only recently found out. So whatever hat the guy's wearing, that color is his color name.
Right. Okay.
Which I only didn't realize until recently. So when you see Mr. Blue, he's wearing a blue hat.
Right.
Martin Balsam's wearing a green hat, and so forth and so on. And yeah, I mean, obviously Quentin Tarantino lifted that for Reservoir Dogs. I mean, Reservoir Dogs is a great picture on its own, but
absolutely,
it's also an A to Z roadmap of where we can probably pick out where he took from here, where he took from here, where he took from here, where he borrows from here.
Oh, that's his thing, right? Like it's like he's like you know, and without going into a whole Tarantino thing, he's almost hip hop in the way that he samples, right, and just creates something new out of what he samples, right?
And what's great is I'm sure I was going to say just last to cap that most people who saw Reservoir Dogs probably found Pelham once they found that information out.
Sure.
You know, which is a good thing, which is, you know, more people, more new generations discovering and realizing that John Travolta's version is.
Well, I don't know if you know, Mike, you probably don't know this.
The blank yourself.
you probably don't know this. Jesus himself called into this show during the Saturday Night Fever episode and actually called the remake of the Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3 a shit show.
He did.
Yeah, because I mean, you know, well, what is it? So Pestilence and Plague and the remake of the Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3 third version. Right, exactly. It's like a psalm, 3 psalms. It all fits. Right, exactly.
But in fairness, Jesus was complimentary of John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever.
And Travolta might have played Jim Morrison once, which for most uneducated people, they assume that Jim Morrison was Jesus. So there's a link.
Oh.
And by uneducated, he means like druggy people who might not take showers. But if I could get into a little bit into our friend Owen Roisman here for a second.
Yeah.
Because there is some incredible just things I learned about lighting listening to him talk, right? Like, this is only his 7th movie. Like, his 2nd movie was French Connection. Like, what? What he learned on French Connection is how to light in subway tunnels, which is it was a technique called flashing, where he took the film and exposed it to light, and it just brought out the details and sort of the darker shots, right? Like that are only lit with bulbs going all the way back. So like if the bulbs are going straight back, like if you expose the film itself to light, you'll get the detail all the way back, even though you don't have to light what's in the foreground.
That is very interesting.
It's also his idea to shoot the movie in an anamorphic ratio, which at the time was 235 to 1. It's now 239 to 1, but at the time it was 235. But
his use of the camera too. I read where in French Connection, you get a lot of smooth pans that go across because he put the camera on a wheelchair. So he would be able to get a smooth Steadicam wasn't invented yet. It was only invented a few years later. Like when 76, when Rocky and the Bound for Glory, the Woody Guthrie movie, used the Steadicam for and then Rocky, it's most known, but Marathon Man, all in 76. Wow. But Roisman didn't have that in 71, so he uses the wheelchair. Well, if you notice in Pelham, there's a lot of shots that seem smooth kind of pans that seem to go where you can see he's using the same technique as well. So coupled with the lighting, great camera work, great, just the man.
The first setup in the train, the first lighting setup, he said was easy peasy because of the bright lights. So all you had to do was spray down the hot spots, but the emergency lighting, which is set up 2, how he managed to get all their faces lit was he taped dentist mirrors to the back of the poles and put 25-watt bulbs on them. Again, his 7th movie, and he's like Inspector Gadget over here.
And yet again, as we were saying earlier, never won a competitive Academy Award. And yet you just gave exemplary things that this guy was pioneering.
Well, I'm going to play a clip from the film. And this is the scene where Robert Shaw goes to conductor, which, by the way, the guy's kind of dressed like a train engineer, which is not real, Devin. Like,
Okay.
you're not from here. That's not a thing.
No. Okay.
Engineered drag in the MTA was not a thing. It's not a thing. It might be a thing now, but it's not. It wasn't then. So
Okay.
Maybe Studio 54. Someone came one time.
right.
You know,
He's like the
with-
missing village person. There was like construction guy, Indian guy, train engineer.
Train guy.
Yeah.
Exactly. See it all. Right. He's like the bonus track on the Live and Sleazy album. Exactly.
Here he goes. He's like walking up to the train guy.
Hey, how am I supposed to see what you...
Tuba means he pulled out a gun, by the way.
I'm taking
Tuba.
your train.
Oh, good.
You're taking my train. Turn around. I got something to show you.
Earl Hindman from Home Improvement.
All right, so I got to get into the music a little bit, right? So that was David Shire, who was at the time he was Talia Shire's husband. David Shire also did the score for The Conversation,
A year
All
later.
the President's Men,
2 years later.
and then Saturday Night Fever. He did
The incidental
any
melodies.
part that wasn't the Bee Gees, right?
Right. Or Tavares, exactly. Or Yvonne
Right,
Element.
right.
It's great how he uses the music like it sounds like a rumbling train itself, not to sound pretentious. It's like New York itself. It's like a character itself in the way that New York is a character in Manhattan, Woody Allen's Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about
Yes.
the music is not just incidental ever. The music creates the edge of your seat tension that's prevalent in most of this movie.
It does.
Kind of thing.
But tuba definitely means gun. Yeah. Oh, you know what? We got a call.
Ooh,
Oh, yeah. We haven't gotten a call in a couple of weeks.
we have
I
not.
gotta remember how to pick up the line.
Is it a rotary?
Hello, Radio Free Rhinecliff.
Hey, this is Tony. How's it going?
Hi, Tony.
Hello, Tony.
Hi, Tony.
Were you listening live?
Yeah. I was listening live. I was just inside of a little bakery down the street, and I just stepped outside as I was listening. It was getting real loud in there, so I thought I would just, I was listening, and I felt like calling in. You guys were talking about one of my favorite films.
Which bakery were you at?
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, it was Bread Alone. It's off
right in
of
Rhinebeck,
East
yeah.
Market Street. Yeah, in Rhinebeck. That's right.
Yeah. So, what were your takes on the film? You enjoy it? It's one of your favorites, you said?
Well, it was so I don't love the film. I'll be honest. I don't love the film, but I love the film because my grandfather worked on the film, so I love it for that reason. I don't
interesting.
love the film, but I love it for that reason.
Really?
Yeah.
Who was your grandfather on the film?
So, so he was a grip on the film, but he also played a small role in the subway scene.
Well, that's awesome.
Honestly, if you blink, you'll miss him. But his name was Frankie Ratteli. So my gramps was Frankie Ratteli. I'm Tony Ratteli, and he was a grip. He was a small part on the subway scene, and I have a lot of sentimental value for that film.
Between Mike and I, we know like every frame of this movie. Like what scene in the subway is he
I've
in?
been racking my brain.
This is one of he was like a background character. He was a background character. It's like a big scene. You blink, he's gone. That's all. It's just like he was there, he's not there.
Is he in the tunnel?
Yeah, he's in the tunnel. Again, if you go back maybe frame by frame, you'll see him, but it's not a big deal. Like he was in the business for a long time.
Was he a cop?
was gonna say, was he a cop?
It was a smaller role.
Like a hostage or a passerby or on the platform?
Yeah, something like a passerby. It's a passerby or something like that. It's whatever. But like I said, we're proud he was a grip on the film. You can look him up again. Frankie Ratteli.
Okay.
He was an extra. But we just we listen. I'm in the business still. Like it was my grandfather had his roots in the film industry, and he was also a coach. I don't know if you guys know this. Why would you know this? This is my story. He was he coached Robert Shaw in Jaws.
Really?
You know that Indianapolis monologue? Yeah,
What?
he had a hand in actually crafting that scene. He went from grip to background
Wow.
extra to coach. He was incredible.
Wait, he was Robert Shaw's acting coach? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Wow.
Oh my God! Wow.
I'm gonna have to look your grandfather up.
Yeah, so Grandpa, he hustled. He was a great guy. He hustled. He did a lot of things. I was inspired, and so I got into the business myself. So anyway, I hear you guys talking about the Taking Of Pelham 1,
What
2,
do you
3,
do in
and I
the
had to call.
business?
Are you guys familiar with what's called an intimacy coordinator? Is that familiar to you guys?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wait.
Vaguely.
Devin, why was the hesitation there? Yeah, Doug seemed like he got it, but Devin, why was that a hesitation for you?
I don't know. It just, I'm a Midwestern girl, Tony, so I know what it is, and it gave me a slightly embarrassed chuckle because we're a little reserved, shall we say. So I know what you're discussing, but yeah, that's why I giggled.
Yeah, I get it. That makes sense.
Have you done this in pictures or television or
A
streaming
lot of
shows?
Law and Order, SVU, a lot of that. Those are kind of the tough ones for the intimacy scenes. There's often graphic scenes that aren't so savory for people. So that's kind of one body of work. I did some stuff with Sharon Stone in the late 90s. Yeah, some commercial work, some Pepsi's. The intimacy coordinator, it's a big role. I don't know if you guys know a lot about it. I feel like we're kind of one of the best kept secrets in Hollywood, if you know what I'm saying.
Wow.
Wait,
Yeah.
did you just say an intimacy coordinator on a Pepsi commercial? Is that what you said?
Yeah. You remember that one with Caitlyn Jenner? Oh, yeah, that thing was steamy. It was steamy. So, it's just one of those things.
Okay.
Just one of those things. You have to, you do what you're called to do. Listen, let me tell you why I feel this work matters to me. I want to start there, Devin, because Devin, you seem like you're not a believer. You seem like I'm sorry, Doug. What are you saying?
I'm fascinated by this. I don't know anything about that line of work at all. I know people who've been fired for not following the protocols of an intimacy coordinator.
Yeah. The protocols.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I got to tell you, do you know what the number one reason for being fired during an intimacy scene is?
I don't know if I want to know. What is it?
Yeah.
It's not that heinous. It's not terrible, but it's uncomfortable.
Okay.
It's when the Zozich comes out of the ball back snatch. I can't even say it without laughing. It's terrible. It's terrible. But it happens.
Like a Jack in the Box? Like it's like a surprise?
Yeah. It's like one of those. It's like when you open a can of Pillsbury. Those dough things.
Poppin' fresh, right?
It's a poppin'. Yeah, Mike's got it. It's a poppin' fresh.
Yeah, like the surprise snakes. What do they call them that were actually springs?
Oh, right. It's like it's supposed to be a can of peanuts, but then you open it up and and
it's just
like
balls.
Bozo the clown used to, right?
That's a very important work. That sounds very, very important.
George C. Scott once famously said, right, to his actresses when he was involved in intimate scenes with them, he would say, "I apologize if my we'll use the terminology of if my snakes come out of the peanut can, and I apologize if my snakes don't come out of the peanut can."
Oh, yeah. That's real respect right there.
Nope.
Wait, are you eating?
I was gonna say, what is that?
Tony,
noise?
are you eating?
Yeah, just gonna like dumpster dive for some little snack just a few minutes ago. Just a little something to eat.
Wait, you got to
Not actual dumpster diving.
Don't worry about it.
Is that like a figure of speech?
Yeah. As we say in our household, every time you try to find something in the icebox, you go dumpster diving, and sometimes you find just a little bit of garbage to eat.
Tony, I have to ask you really quick because I'm still sort of stuck on it because again, I know every frame of the movie. Where was your grandfather in the film again? Like if I was looking for it, is it on a music cue or where is the scene between?
It's more like if you could imagine early on when people are getting on the train, at some point in time, somewhere between the track and the train, you might have caught a glimpse of him somewhere. Does that make any sense? Like he's just like a little something and he's there.
Between the track and the train?
Yeah.
The only thing between a track and a train that I remember even remotely in the movie is
vermin.
It's vermin.
He was playing vermin. That's who my grandfather was.
Wait, he was playing a rat?
I'm saying my grandfather was like Ratatouille. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so what are you then?
Yeah, I'm kind of a half human, half rat hybrid. My grandfather, a few generations later, you had some cross breeding happen. So I'm a little. I'm not like Splinter from Ninja Turtle, but I'm of that ilk.
You're saying you're half rat, half human?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, and you live in Rhinebeck or Red Hook or Rhinecliff?
Yeah. I live in Rhinebeck. Sometimes I hang out between East Market Street. Sometimes I go to South Street. I'm kind of all over the downtown area. Montgomery's a lovely place. Did you know that Krause's chocolate gives you a lot of really good shit if you ask them the right way?
I did not know that.
Well, that's the secret of living in Rhinebeck, kid. One of my big buddies, Jeff. You guys probably know who Jeff is. One of my big buddies, Jeff. He's a great dude, man. We're always hanging out. Always gives me a bite to eat. He's a good guy. Lives right around there.
Jeff. Which Jeff?
Dean Morgan.
What?
Yeah. So okay, Devin. Jeffrey Dean Morgan does in fact live in town. He's kind of everyone's friend. I told you that it's a Rhinebeck problem.
Oh,
where you think you look good one day, but then you go to the store and Jeffrey Dean Morgan's in the produce section, and you got to go off all the way to the milk. Yeah,
and you're like,
So you're friends with Jeff?
Oh yeah. We've done a lot of work together.
Really?
Why is everyone so surprised? I'm tickled by how surprised everyone is. Meanwhile, Mike's quiet as a mouse. Sorry, excuse the phrase.
Yeah, we're not getting into my legacy yet. Exactly.
Yeah, what is your legacy, Mike? I'm being grilled. I'm just a guest here. Mike, what about you, man? What's going on in your world? You're a guest as well. All right. Well,
okay. So we're same page, exactly.
Well, I just assume because it's Jeffrey Dean Morgan that if you guys work together a lot, you've had to have worked on stuff that we've seen.
Right.
I mean, that's why I was like, really?
Listen, any movie where he's been intimate with other people, you can just assume I helped that happen.
Wow.
Just pick a film. Pick a film that he was in.
I don't know. I'm kind of too. I was gonna say I feel like I'm too stunned to think right now.
Well, he's kind of a TV guy, really.
He's in The Boys.
Listen, we did some work on Walking Dead. We did some stuff on Supernatural. I mean,
Right, Supernatural, yeah.
Wait.
He was trying to bang Hilary Swank at one point in that Irish musical thing, P.S. I Love You.
Right.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, let me tell you what. He had no problem with Hillary. I mean, it's no big deal. He kept the together. But you know what?
All right, I gotta be there. We're on. Okay, listen. I feel like I gotta go. Tony.
You gotta go. All right. Well, listen.
I appreciate that you called in, and that's really cool. And
nice to meet you.
It was good to meet you, Mike, Devin. It was great. I know you guys are amazed I have a phone and a job. I know it's weird, but here we are.
I really love that you listen to the show. I appreciate that very much, and I hope you call back soon.
When your grandfather did, props to your granddad.
Thank you. Yeah. He's a great man. All right. Well, you guys have a good one. Keep the show up, man. It was great. It's great.
Awesome.
Love it.
Thank
Love
Keep
you.
the show up. You see,
yeah, that's what they say in the rap people.
Keep the show up. Exactly.
Thanks a lot, man. Bye now.
A rat man just called in and told us he was an intimacy coordinator.
I don't know. I don't think it's that big a deal.
It was weird.
Not in Rhinebeck, Dev. Things like that happen all the time. So let's just forget it. We'll move on.
Exactly.
And we'll talk about the end of the picture.
Okay. So the end, I feel like we really get into the, earlier when we were discussing the, it's kind of more than one film happening at the same time.
Right.
And I feel like most of the end gets real aggressive into that. It is an action heist movie, right?
Yes.
And so the way we're getting through the ridiculousness of, them all getting, trying to get out. They're going to try to get out with their money. And Mr. Gray is, let's be honest. We know from the moment Mr. Gray opens his mouth, he's not going to make it because he's a complete douche canoe.
Right.
And nobody's going to let that fly.
Right.
And of course they're like, get his money, get Gray's money. Right.
Yeah.
Immediately.
And so they're all trying to get
bloody one, even the bloody money.
Yeah.
Even the bloody money. So they're all trying to get out, right?
Pops Mr. Gray. And he
and Mr. Green gets away with all the money, more than Balsam.
Yes.
Well, and before that, obviously, Mr. Brown, so whatever guy with a gun has managed to get down into the tunnel, takes out
the undercover cop that jumped off the train.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so he takes out
off the train and he gets one of the guys.
Yeah.
So he takes out Mr. Brown, who's just and Mr. Brown's clearly the least important of the four heist guys.
Yeah, he has maybe two lines of dialogue, and
Well, and remember, we never saw his face on Home Improvement. That was Tim Allen's neighbor for all those years. The guy we never saw his face and.
Right.
Like this. And
well, he's just as unexciting here because, he's barely, right? Because he's barely there.
Home Improvement was the worst show ever. Exactly. Yeah. And like you say.
Is that the one with Tim Allen?
The weakest link.
Yeah. It's the one with Tim Allen.
Watch that.
But he has a real Yeoman
you're
Johnson
right.
vibe.
The weakest link is definitely Earl Hinman's character,
Yeah.
Mr. Brown. I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah. So then he goes. So then Mr. Blue's like, okay, Mr. Green, go ahead where we're going to, I'm going to go take out this other guy. And so the whole interaction with him trying to take out the other guy. And then when he runs into Walter and Walter Matthau, what does he say? Excuse me, please turn around and drop your gun. Like, he's so weirdly polite about pardon
drop
me.
Drop it. Yep,
you need to drop it. I've got a gun on you. You need to drop it. And then Mr. Blue was just like so calm and collected the whole time. And it was like, oh, no death penalty in New York. Never mind. I shall commit suicide.
Via third rail.
Via the third rail.
He was a mercenary, remember? I mean, he does mention early in the movie that his character was a bounty hunter mercenary guy who, remembered, he mentions how he couldn't even get paid enough to make one killing. He was so good. So I could kind of see how, and we were saying earlier how he's the only one who's so serious in the movie. He even dies in a very serious way.
There's some really great
scene
behind the scenes stuff with that too, like where his effect, the special effects in his boots, because it kept going off. Like, it's like pretty funny. But real quick before we get to the very end, one of the things that kills me in the film, and it's just real quick, it's when the sort of rap sheets on all the characters that have died, because again, Mr. Green has gotten away at this point,
right?
And they're showing
everybody else is dead.
They're showing him to
Joe Welcome.
Yeah, that was what I'm gonna say. Yeah, so Mr. Gray, they're like, they give his
Hector
real
Elizondo.
name, they're like, what's his real name in it?
Hector Elizondo, the famous.
But his character has three names. It's Mr. Gray.
Yeah, well, his name, Giuseppe, right? Giuseppe something, and then this is Joe Welcome.
And he's like, AKA Joe Welcome, and that made me laugh so much.
Yeah. Well, the book fleshes a lot more. The book, there's no color names in the book at all.
Right.
So the character names in the book. So the character of Robert Shaw is Cold Rider.
Right.
And even on the radio, he's known. So they're already known as their names in the book.
Right.
Yeah, the book was the ending of the book is very different too. There's no sneezing, which is a great touch, of course, the way the movie ends with the sneeze. Martin Balsam sneeze is a great touch.
So Devin, let's get
that is the thing that's the thing I have to discuss is, I mean, it is completely evident from the very beginning of the movie that Mr. Green sneezing is clearly Chekhov's gun. So I am sorry, but when we're getting there, there's no surprise. We absolutely know that he's going to sneeze, and that's how they're going to figure out he's the guy. What killed me is the like, all right, we'll see you around. And off they walk out the door, and then he sneezes, and he's like, gesundheit. And then he walks back in, and Walter Matthau gives that stupid face that Walter Matthau face, and it was like, that's how it's gonna end this.
It's a face that is not yet a meme, but
yes,
it should have been.
Right.
Yeah,
but it should be.
Yeah,
it should
be.
Exactly.
No, but what's great is before that even happens is Mr. Green doing the indecent proposal Scrooge McDuck thing with the money.
Jumping in his money.
Yeah, he's like swimming in the money. He's like,
and then that way he says, like, who? He gets cut by the knock of the door while he's in his glory.
Yeah.
And he's like, who? Transit cop. Who? He goes, what?
And then he puts it like on the top blanket, right? And he just like wraps all the money up and throws it in the oven.
And then Jerry Stiller, who we haven't spoken about, the great Jerry Stiller, of course, is Rico Patrone, with a lot of comic relief in that he supplies in that movie. When he goes and he wants to light a cigarette at the stove. Right. And Martin Balsam's like, oh, no, I'll get it, because he's right. He would have burned the money. And then it would have been like Ocean's 11, the ending of Ocean's 11. Spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it. Same kind of thing, burning up the money.
Oh my gosh.
It's a wonderful ending. I do know what's funny. I mean, we were much younger when we first saw it, so I didn't see that ending coming at all. I was like,
I watched the movie. I've seen it so many times. I watched it in full about a couple of months ago with an ex-girlfriend of mine. She never saw it before, and she felt the same way you did at the end, Devin. She was like, is that it? She's like, that's how it ends. She was all like mad. She's like, that's it? I sat through this, and that's how it ends. That's it. And I wanted to like pull out the novel and go, it doesn't end like that in the novel. Maybe this will make. In fact, as an aside, spoiler alert for those that haven't read the novel. The novel ends with a little foot chase, so you can imagine that Martin Balsam character. The way he's all like out of shape and he looks all, downtrodden, emaciated, being chased by Garber, and he's on the roof of that building. He's in that tenement. He comes down a fire escape, jumps down, lands on the landing of the sidewalk there, turns around, and there's Walter Matthau's character, and he just says surprise. And that's the end of how the book ended. So it's a little less of that kind of corny, like you're saying. And I'll give you that. I'll play devil's advocate. I'll agree with you. There is kind of it almost seems like a writer's convenience ending there where it's like, how do I end this thing? Okay, you know what? Let's just throw it in here. But I'm nostalgic for the movie. So to me, that ending is like kind of ending.
I love the ending.
I mean, it was funny. It gave me a real, like, I really laughed. Because that was the part I wasn't expecting. Because like I said, absolutely that sneeze with Chekhov's gun, and I was like, "This is happening." But when Walter Matthau popped his head back in, I was like, "Oh my god, you got to be kidding!" That face. I was like, "That's hilarious."
If any of us right now looked in our cameras and tried to do that face, we would regret it forever.
Yes, we would. Yes, we would.
But what's interesting too is how when he does that, you can only imagine seeing that in the theater at the time and the muttering of everybody as they shoot into the lobby of like, can you believe that ending? Like, that's the ending, or like we're saying, that was amazing. Like there was probably a vision of that way it's like it makes the Sopranos ending. Now I didn't realize the Sopranos ending looks credible more compared to this ending. Now, right?
I see that's.
Oh my god!
I don't agree. I think that the ending is like, to me, it reminds me of tempo wise, and we don't have to get into the detail of it, but if City Lights, it's the ending of it in a different way. It's like. Dun 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 dun, jazz hands, and we're done. Like, I love that.
And it kind of, that's a good point. It kind of gives the same punch the way the movie opens. The movie opens kind of with a boom, with the music, and then it ends.
Well, it opens with a tuba.
A tuba, and then it ends with kind of a maraca. And ends with maracas, right? The maracas are at the end, that kind of thing,
yes, exactly,
kind of thing, and then into the reprise.
Before we get to the next bit, like, I just want to say, like, I think this movie is airtight. It's not even 2 hours long. Like, this episode might be longer than the movie. Like,
it's true.
It's airtight, and even the way the sneeze is foreshadowed, and a lot of things are foreshadowed in this movie. It all plays out like music. And
in a way, of course, as an audience member, we want Matthau to catch him.
Of course.
Well, it's now time, guys, for America's favorite segment. And of course, I'm talking about let's franchise this, baby. Okay, if you're just tuning in, this is the part of the show where we repurpose the existing content that we're talking about. In this case, that would be the film The Taking of Pelham 123, the original 1974 joint. Right? So what did you think we should do with this film?
Okay, so I've got some real opinions. So, having never seen this before, I watched the film, and although how it may have sounded, I actually did enjoy it. I really did actually enjoy it myself, despite the crazy roller coaster. But I knew we were going to talk about sequel or remake or whatever. And I thought, well, this has been remade. So I started digging into... I wanted to look up the 2009 remake with obviously Denzel Washington and John Travolta. However,
I've never seen it. Yeah, never seen it.
I've never seen it either.
I have.
Is it as horrible as we think it is?
Worse.
So you share an opinion with Jesus. That's awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
Tony Scott, the late Tony Scott, directed it, and we know that Tony is not Ridley. Tony's movies were, Days of Thunder and Top Gun, I believe, right? Top Gun. And the movie
Dollar
is
Tree
exactly
Dollar Tree
Ridley Scott, and it's like, the thing is with this movie, it's not Travolta's fault. Denzel, of course, is always going to be. He's always going to save almost anything he's in. He does. He's no Matthau either. And in fact, there's so many things that we don't have time for that I could go into about it to tell you how awful it is. But James Gandolfini plays the mayor. So there's something at least cool about that. So for me, anytime I see Gandolfini in anything now, I'm always enjoying whatever I'm seeing him in. But he doesn't. Nothing is played cynical. The camera moves constantly, like every time. Tony Scott, literally, it's like as if the camera is on a Jaguar and it's just roaming all over the set.
Wow, that sounds frustrating.
And it's loud and it's annoying and there's no tension and it's highly recommended.
Of course, it's highly recommended, right?
It's really bad. It's very bad.
So go ahead.
Okay. So as I'm looking this up, and no, I did not watch that version. As I'm Googling, basically, I discover that there's a third version that the first time it was remade was in 1998, and the 2009 one is actually like the second remake. And so then I was like, okay, how are we going to talk about remaking or making a sequel of this movie if it's already been made 3 times? So then I thought, well, okay, I'll watch the 1998 version because I really didn't want to sit through the 2009 version. And so the 1998 version is very nearly verbatim the 74 one. It's let's see, Vincent D'Onofrio is Mr. Blue,
which on paper works.
And it
was
Richard,
a TV movie.
Yeah.
Was it a TV movie? Okay.
Yeah, it was a TV movie. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Richard Schiff is Mr. Green, and my husband loves West Wing, so we definitely know Richard Schiff in our house. Tara Rosling, a gal, is Mr. Brown, and I actually did enjoy. They do call her Mr. Brown the whole film. They don't call her Ms. Brown or Mrs. Brown. It's Mr. Brown the whole film. And then, of course, you are in the movie, Doug, because Mr. Gray is played by one Donnie Wahlberg, who is your doppelganger.
Yeah.
And then Edward James Olmos is the detective. So that's where there was like one kind of big change is he's like Detective Anthony Piscotti or something. He's not Garber. It was weird.
Is that the book name?
No, he's still Garber.
He's still
in the book.
Because then I did end up looking up the character names for the 2009 movie, and Denzel Washington is Garber. So then it goes back to Garber. But in the 2009 version, they use the actual names from the book. So it's Ryder, John Travolta's Ryder, and I forget the other guy's names. Mm-hmm. But the 1998 one
is in the TV version as well.
Yes, I think so.
And the music's done by Stuart Copeland. And one other credit that I read was, and I'm just reading it verbatim, Bobby O'Neill as Homeboy on Subway. That's what it says. That's what it says in the credits of the film.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 90s, folks. I don't know.
90s. Okay.
Yeah.
So no
Here
joke.
We are now. Entertain us, etc.
So basically, no joke. I watched the 74 and the 98 versions 2 days in a row. I specifically watched them close together. They're very nearly as far structure and all that, it's all very nearly exactly the same. Dialogue is almost exactly the same. And it is Vincent D'Onofrio was the only one being serious, right? Just like Robert Shaw, right? The only one being serious throughout the whole thing. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. So there's kind of all these elements, and the ending is exactly the same. Richard Schiff sneezes, and Edward James almost, and then crud. It's not. There's a gal who plays the other cop, the Jerry Stiller cop, and they both lean back in the door together, and they're like wah wah. Except they say God bless you. They don't say Gesundheit. But otherwise, it's exactly the same thing. And Richard Schiff does the I'm gonna rub all the money over myself in bed, and it's so weird. Okay, so basically, I watched these 2 movies. And I'm and then I already know there's the 2009 version, right? So then I'm thinking to myself, what the is this? And I know you have to bleep me out. What the is this?
I'm not
is
gonna
this
bleep you out twice.
Is this A Star Is Born? Do we just need to keep remaking the same film over and over and over again? Is Lady Gaga going to be in the next version? Is that what's happening? We're just going to franchise
as Mr. Green.
Exactly.
Or you could do Lady Garbar.
There we go. Lady Gaga. There we go. So now my thought is something different than we've done before. I think we should do a prequel. Because I don't think we can remake this film again. I think we have to do a prequel and
directed by Bradley Cooper.
Well, hear me out. I feel like if we do a prequel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it can't be the gang meeting up and plotting this case.
No.
I think it's
no.
Do you know what a backdoor sequel is? Like The Color of Money is kind of a backdoor sequel, right? Like,
Correct.
If you never saw The Hustler, it's an amazing movie, but if you saw The Hustler, it's even better.
Gotcha. Yeah,
right?
yeah. Okay.
Correct.
So maybe we make the prequel sort of just wrapped around Mr. Blue's story.
Yes.
And maybe at
almost
the end
like
he meets Mr. Brown or something at the very end and
or
has an idea
you do
for
this,
a train heist or something.
Yeah.
But,
right.
Or Martin Balsam's character, how he got fired with the transporting drugs on the train.
Right.
Something almost like an origin story, like Mr. Blue's origin story.
Right.
So it's like he has an Uncle Ben and Martin Balsam he's got to do wrestling to be able to save Walter. I see. That'd be perfect.
Yeah.
He's bitten by a radioactive Brit.
Or like a radioactive rat, like Tony was talking, right?
Right.
Yep. There you go.
Maybe.
There it is.
Maybe.
There it is.
Or that would be the other option. We just remake the Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, but with half human, half rat people.
Okay, I'm going to go with prequel. I say we call it Mr. Blue.
Mr. Blue. Okay.
All right, so I'm just going to give you. I'm going to give you my two options.
Who plays?
Are very obvious.
Yeah, who plays Mr. Blue?
Right.
Either Gary Oldman or Joaquin Phoenix is what I got.
Oh, okay.
Well, how about Gary Oldman plays the young Mr. Blue and Joaquin Phoenix plays the older Mr. Blue? So when Mr. Blue is in.
Do you mean the opposite?
They're both Academy Award winners. They can play anybody. They can do anything. These guys can do anything.
Mike's over here making like a Benjamin Button scenario.
I mean, right? Because think about it. You have Gary Oldman playing Sid Vicious, and then Winston Churchill. I mean, could that be the furthest apart of Britain? Like right there.
Right. So who do you have, Devin? For Mr. Blue.
Okay, I was way more chill than that. I was going Jake Gyllenhaal. Well, no, like you just took it up to the top. First of all, I don't think we have only been doing Let's Franchise This, baby, for a little while now. I don't think we waste Gary Oldman this early. I think we save him for something top notch, not Mr. Blue's origin story.
I'm cash money hose. I need this to work right now.
I mean.
Well, the Muppet movie remake, you're right. For Oldman, we need to save him for the...
Right. So, I mean, that's...
He's going to do the Michael Caine part.
No. Okay, that's a whole nother episode because we aren't going to remake the Muppet Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
No, we're not doing that.
Yeah, no.
Because everybody already knows that there's some subreddit out there about other movies that should be done exactly the same with the Muppets. As far as the whole reason the Muppet Christmas Carol works is because Michael Caine plays it straight.
Yes.
And so what other movies we want to see where one person is straight and the rest are the Muppets? Anyway, so that's
Jaws the Revenge, obviously.
Clearly, 100%. So my pick for Mr. Blue is Jake Gyllenhaal. And again, because I think right, I think we saved Gary Oldman for something a little bit more significant than Mr. Blue's origin story.
Like a Caddyshack. Like a Caddyshack remake. That would be perfect. Right.
Exactly.
He plays the Bill Murray character. Exactly. Carl Spencer.
He's
Danny. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Or the Rodney Dangerfield character. Yeah. Imagine him coming in. Exactly. Anyway.
There you go.
Okay.
How'd you like to earn $14 the hard way?
Right. Imagine him saying it. Exactly. Right. Him saying all that. Right. All right. Anyway, I'm sorry.
But yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal is solid.
No, that is good.
I feel like he could be serious, a little gritty. I would see him as a mercenary. I feel like he's believable as a mercenary. Yeah. The only thing is, I realized that's the only character we for sure could cast because we don't know that we bring in the other people. So
Maybe he meets Mr. Brown along the way as he's like the muscle, right?
Oh, okay.
Or maybe there's a twist because he's so silent in Pelham that like he's actually the brains of the thing.
Oh, that could be very good.
Like Mr. Brown is kind of his, because
And
if
that's
you
why-
look at
Yeah.
the dynamic between him and Brown in Pelham, like he's very much orders him like, hey, take care of this and do, like he's very like simpatico with Brown. So
and
I
that's
think we
why
do it that
Gray
way.
is so angry.
That is interesting.
Because and then he passes over Gray, and that's why Gray is so pissed off throughout the whole movie, like he is in
right.
in the
So maybe we
Right.
do that.
version
Who
of
do we
Pelham.
cast? Who do we cast as Brown?
I think you guys need to go first because I think my choice is goofy.
Okay, go ahead, Mike. Who do you got?
I mean, like maybe Macaulay Culkin would always, he could nail that. I think.
I love Mac. You know what? I'll put Mac in anything. Mac could play the Millennium Falcon. Mac could play anything.
Right.
I love Mac. I'm going with Daniel Craig though.
Okay, and that would be good too.
Yeah.
That would be good too. I can see that. That's a
I
great
like
one.
that.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
actually,
pretty
I think I really like.
He'll be busy.
I really
he's
like that.
shooting Sergeant Rock currently.
Oh,
Yeah.
So
Sergeant
maybe
Rock.
we don't go with
Okay.
him then.
Right. Yeah. He's busy right now. We got to get shooting like now
Right,
because I need this prequel in my
Tomorrow,
life right now.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
I already called the
No
catering
script,
will be
just-
there in the morning. Right. All
Right.
the pastries going to
Me
be
and-
there at 9 a.m. We have to hurry. Like,
And the three of us will be at the craft services table going, script? Go
Right.
ahead. Just go.
Right.
Just
Exactly.
go.
Okay,
What are you talking about?
So, just for the heck of it, then, if for some reason Garber somehow was in this movie, who would play Walter Matthau? Now that's the. See, that's
I don't know
the
where
one.
Garber would fit in the movie, but
Yeah.
I mean, Robert Downey Jr. could, if we're being serious about casting, Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
has that. I'm just thinking that sarcastic, smarmy way that usually he does have. But if we're talking jokingly,
like, let's cast Robert Downey
then-
Jr. because he's kind of a douche.
Exactly. Right, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know,
I like
that's
that.
not bad.
I like it.
That's not bad at all. I didn't pick anybody for Garber because I just thought if I'm doing a prequel, I don't know.
That Garber
I don't know how
fits.
I don't know that Garber
he wouldn't
fits.
be in there.
I
Exactly.
did.
He wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried to do the rest of the crew just in case,
Right.
even though I didn't think we would probably use all of them. But
There'd
yeah,
have to
no,
be
I
a lot
didn't.
of British people then, because if it's focusing on Blue, and he'll still be in Britain or in England at the time probably.
Right,
Or
yeah,
actually, didn't he
that's
say
true.
he
So-
was? Didn't he say he was in India? Even I think in the movie he said or something like that. He was in Africa, or he said
He said
definitely-
he's a mercenary, right?
Yeah.
So
Right,
I think
and
we
he-
can put him anywhere.
anywhere. True,
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah.
that is true.
We
So
can tell
wherever we
any
put
story
him.
we want with him as long as he's the
Mhm.
mercenary. Yeah. That's
So-
I mean, if you're a script writer, and you have
Mhm.
that character and you can do anything with him, that's kind of a gold mine.
So Robert De Niro as the limo driver.
Right.
I don't know what that means, but
Right. Zendaya is the limo.
Yes.
as the limo.
There is the
exactly.
limo.
Right.
Robert De Niro's the limo driver. Yep,
Right. We got to sell this movie, kids.
we do. We do.
So
I don't know.
yeah.
I do like this idea of like maybe whatever mercenary job he is on prior to Pelham, and then like you say, having Mr. Brown sort of be like, oh, he is the brains of the operation,
And the
having
two of them
be together.
are the only ones who survived whatever the job was.
Ooh, I like
Right.
that too.
Yes,
Yeah.
Great.
I like that.
Yeah, and you need an American to kind of be the proxy to the subway thing, because it's possible that Mr. Blue
Right.
might not even know what the New York subway is. I mean, there are people who live in other countries that don't even really know. Like I'm saying that he might not even have ever thought. He might think in England, hey, we can rob the tube, but it would take probably someone like Mr. Brown to be like, I got a great idea.
Right.
Let's
Like I got a
go
better idea
rob.
because
Yeah,
the
let's
tube
go
is
to
too
New
well
York.
kept.
It's more vulnerable. Yeah, it's more vulnerable
Another
in New
thing,
York.
period. Let's go period. Let's bring them back to 1971 in the prequel.
Ooh, I
Yeah.
like that. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, let's do that. Oh yeah, that's good.
When
yeah,
did
'cause that-
Cambodia? No, that's the 80s, isn't it?
No,
Cambodia.
that's right around the time you're talking
yeah.
about. No,
is it?
Cambodia
Cambodia.
would be right around that
Yeah.
time.
Okay.
Oh, you know what I got?
Okay.
You know what I got it confused with? Not the Falkland Islands. Like,
That's the 80s. That's Margaret Thatcher. Yeah, that's the Iron Lady.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's Meryl Streep's territory. Yes.
but you saw where I was going. I was going like English conflict. Yeah. So.
Right. Let's make a American Wolf in London. There you go. Exactly. They were that first.
I had never graduated, but yeah, I think that as a director, I think I have a person who would give it a great vision.
Oh, yes.
Edgar Wright would give it a slick ass.
Oh, yeah.
It would be his own vision.
Perfect.
It would have a foot in Pelham, but it would be his own thing, and it would be signature enough to where it would still be marketable now and also really fun. Who should we score it?
Huh. Moby. No.
Who?
Moby.
Interestingly, I don't know his name, but the guy who did the soundtrack for Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul was really amazing, actually. Every week was really
Can we get a look up on that?
I don't know his name.
Let's get a look up on that, because I agree with that.
And I'm not sure if it's the same guy that did Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, but whoever he is, he'd be good at it too.
Dave Porter?
Yeah,
Yes.
Dave Porter. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Yep.
Let's do that. Yep.
And his stuff too.
I like it.
Kind of ambient and funky sometimes, and a little of everything.
And definitely,
So,
and he can get close enough to the original soundtrack to some extent without having to borrow it. Almost like,
yeah, absolutely.
and I'm not a big Hans Zimmer fan. What I appreciated about his Blade Runner was he leaned into the Vangelis a bit, which so it's like close enough.
Well,
to where,
isn't that what?
Like he paid homage to Vangelis? Yeah.
Well, that's what Ken Thorne is doing with Superman 2. John Williams didn't score Superman 2, but Ken Thorne took John Williams' Superman 1 score and he made it his own. And that's probably been done in a couple Rocky films. I don't think Bill Conti scored every one of them in the same.
Mm-hmm.
I know exactly what you're saying.
Right.
When you take an
It's like
existing
close
thing
enough where you borrow flavors from it.
But you make it your own, basically.
Right.
So he would be good, whoever we said.
Well, I think we settled this. I want a Mr. Blue prequel.
Yeah.
I think this is a good idea. So Edgar Wright's directing.
Jake Gyllenhaal is starring.
Yep.
It's going to take place in 1971 in Cambodia. Dave Porter's doing the music. And are we settled on Daniel Craig as Mr. Brown?
I like it.
Okay.
I do too.
This is good.
All right. Well,
this is good.
So
that's
Hollywood,
our prequel.
are you listening?
Somebody get out there and make it, or give us the dough and we'll get it made. So that's our show this week.
Thank you for having me, by the way. Thank you very much.
Oh, you are very welcome. I was just going to say thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Mike.
Thank you. Thank you, Devin. Thank you, Doug.
You're very welcome. Mike is Wikipedia Brown.
So I can be Mr.
Yes,
so
you are.
I'm Mr. Brown. I'm Mr. Brown is what that means.
Yes.
Exactly.
You're Mr. Brown.
There we go.
That's right. You know what? You please come back as Joe Welcome.
I will.
So,
I promise you got it.
I'm so excited that Mike joined us on the show. It has filled me with a sentiment I can only liken to alchemy. And I'm very, very, very happy and filled with emotions that are boring for the rest of you. But I assure you, I have
They're
a lot
quality
of
for
at
us.
the moment.
Yes.
Right. Very, very quality.
Same.
We might need an
Same.
intimacy coordinator. So that
So
being
are you
said,
listening, Tony?
definitely call back now. But next week, we are going to be doing To Live and Die in L.A., and we're allegedly being joined by Devin's brother, Cody Ramone.
Yep. Cody is supposed to come back for a visit. To Live and Die in L.A.
Who shot To Live and Die in L.A.? Devin, who was that guy?
Well, just think about who directed it.
That is one Billy Friedkin. Friedkin. And we're taking the back door into Billy Friedkin's catalog, right? We're not starting with The Exorcist. We're not starting with the French Connection.
Right.
Oh, I thought that was a joke about cruising. Sorry.
No, we're not doing. Yeah, we're not. Yeah. So we're going to start with
That
this
is
one.
a great
It is
movie,
shot
by the
by
way.
one Robbie Mueller. It is shot by
Right.
Robbie Mueller. Yes.
Mueller.
Mueller, I'm sorry.
Mueller?
Right, we don't want to
Yeah.
get that comment.
Mueller.
Mueller enough.
Mueller.
Right.
Mueller.
Mueller.
Well, thank you guys for joining us on Studio Property.
Thank you for having
Mike,
me.
say goodbye.
Goodbye.
I'm Doug Wartell.
I'm Devin Irby.
And see.
Studio Property is mixed at Spillway Street Content in Red Hook, New York, and syndicated on Radio Free Rhinecliff. Theme song by The Corner Bodega. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and follow us on Instagram at Studio Property Show. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
Spillway Street.